and odoriferous as well. So, how are you?
Well, seeing as how I live with people that actually go outside, one of my partners brought home a stomach bug yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to tell us about all of the good vitamin D you were forced to get through osmosis.
Oh no. Dirty-minded or whatever. That's just me. Anyway, so he deals with, he's a caregiver, so his clients were stomach bug, and he brought it home. He had it, and then I ended up with it. So I spent most of this today sleeping. I woke up at 5, and I'm like, holy crap, where did the day go?
Well, we are glad that you are managing as best as possible, that you're here with us right now. Hopefully it's not too bad, but if you need to slow down, you need to stop, do give a yell. So, with this all gathered in, a little bit past our hard start, are there any questions, suggestions, hypotheses, corners we need to round off?
I just need to give a small notice because I have to get up early tomorrow. I'm probably gonna head off around 11:45, or I guess for you it would be 10:45. I don't know how time zones work.
Okay, that works. That's perfectly fantabulous and understandable. Thanks for the heads up. We will do our best to ensure that you don't leave with too much trauma to sleep on. And by too much, I mean we will absolutely 100% pour it on as best as we possibly can. Go big or go home.
Vault into all of those paper cuts on your hand from work.
I would also like to point out that everything that happens is an illusion. Sophia is actually the nicest person you have ever met.
She didn't abandon her own ghoul.
She was busy. He's fine. He knows to rub some dirt in it and walk it off.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Perfectly silky smooth. Everything will be everything. So, no questions. We are good. We are great. We are golden. And as always, I am very, very appreciative that we are all here sharing this dramatic, and horribly dark world that these characters inhabit. All of this, I can't say it enough, and I can't say it often enough, because I really want you guys to really, really understand that this is the formation and formative basis for all of the play that I have engaged in over the last few months, over the last few years. This is it. This is the benchmark, the gold standard, and the high water mark that a lot of everything else is compared to or built upon. Thank you. And thank you, and thank you, and thank you. And without much more ado and much more delay, this is officially Soup City Sins Season 14, Episode 4. You've never been tried. When we last left our coterie, there were several things that came to light. Several things, as they always do, dropping out of the woodwork. Several factors, several malfactors, and bad agents acting in the world in their own interests. One of those factors, one of those malefactors, one of those plot planning individuals was laid low by the death of their other half, by the other portion of their soul. Not a soulmate, but an equal part of themselves. Not something that was created or broken externally and put out there in the world to fix and fill those places, but something that was created from those places, those missing parts of themselves in a separate physicality, sharing the time and the space that only death and the potentiality of immortality can provide. In their grief, their initial action was to punish, to harm, to assail members of the coterie. It was aided and abetted by Sophia being a very hospitable guest, hoping to strengthen relations as best as possible, or at least to not ruin them. And as that matter was settled by Sophia and Lucio and Silvio, Hestia and Miriam were miles away, home in the bosom of the gleaming jewel of the Camarilla, the capital city of its American colony, the capital city of its North American empire. There are a lot of things that they had come to grips with, a lot of small matters, really small, about the weight of 3 nickels, the weight of the human soul, and what that means, and all of those sticky connections. In their unwillingness to stop, in their willingness to see it through, for the first time in either of the kindred's existence, they were directly, consciously, cognizantly the catalyst and cause for the death, murder of an innocent. No ifs and buts about it. There's no other way to look at it. There's no other way to come to grips with that fact. And all of that energy went somewhere. All of that effort of killing the defenseless, human, barely adult, almost child, went somewhere. And as they settle in at the Haven, they soak in the ambiance of the room noise, the weight of the spiritual world pressing down on them with each and every second of the clock's tick. They realize that at least a portion of it returned to where it once had been. The Haven is, in fact, fully charged, as the saying goes. There's an excess of energy permeating up and down that particular ley line. There's an excess activity as all of the sundered bonds between this world and that beyond the shroud are once more healed. So, picking up with Miriam and Hestia, alone in the Haven with the body that purportedly now houses the spiritual remnants of Sylvia. What is it that is on their agenda?
Well, as much as Miriam would like to decompress at the moment, she did say that she was going to drop Hestia off and go back and retrieve the other 3. So probably give them, just a moment and then make sure that Hestia is okay to be by herself and then go pick them up.
Okay. And how are you going to assure that Hestia is okay by themselves with the body of the Princess Scourge inhabited by something or someone else that claims themselves to be called Sylvia? With everything that Miriam doesn't know and does know about the society here in Chicago, being an inside outsider, Sylvia was the Tremere who was killed by the Bahari, which started the war that drove all of Miriam's protections away. Either fully in the fact that they experienced full and final death in the hunt to collect them and bring them before the government, or having escaped into the lands just outside of the city's reach, or worse, having gone to ground and made sure that no one and nothing can actively find them, leaving behind all of their cult members, all of their believers, to find their own way in their lives and unlives.
Yes, that is a very good question. She's I suppose she would sit down with Hestia after they have, I believe they were planning on stashing the body once again in the morgue. Am I correct on that, Hestia?
Yeah, they'll probably put them on the morgue table. Just kind of out in the open at the moment because Hestia is trying to figure some things out. So.
Looking at all that luxurious blonde hair, somehow maintained even beyond death, it hasn't lost its luster. It still smells of a counter filled with hair maintenance products. There's Aruba, Ajoba, Shea, all sorts of many odoriferous things that blend together to add to luster and length and volume and all of those things. It is impossible, even in death and the misshapen cracking of the neck and hunching of the shoulders that took place, for one to not look upon Alexa's body and see the money. Because there is a lot of money that went into maintenance, things that, looking at each other, it is hard to not find glaringly missing. Without rousing the lovely tattoos that adorn Miriam aren't as bright. Even with all of the skill necessary to tattoo dead flesh, there is some missing essence when the Tay isn't roused. Hestia, her complexion of course darker, still has a wealth of paleness about it. There is a monstrosity and otherness about Hestia because the beast is far closer than most would expect, and without rousing, it is obvious. There are shadows beneath her eyes that never go away. There's a absence of warmth if she is lost in thought that immediately sets upon her. If she forgets to fidget, you are sure that you are in the room with the dead. All of these things stand out glaringly so because Alexa spent quite a bit of money on cosmetics, hair care, clothing, classically understated jewelry, and even in death, even in the absence of her being in that body, it shows. All of that effort and money shows.
Is Miriam like talking with her or trying to get her figure out if she's okay? Because if she is, then pretty much she would get kind of a babbled blurb of, hey, yeah, okay, go get him, and like practically shooing her out the door because
Fully and
thought of something. Yeah, she's thought of something, and it's like, good, less witnesses.
Alright. So, yeah, Miriam would watch her for a couple more, make sure everything really is in place. And,
Okay.
off
Would
to
you
make the
be
driving.
would you be so kind in looking at Hestia and listening to Hestia? Would you be so kind as to roll your wits plus persuasion or subterfuge? And Hestia, would you be so kind as to roll your composure plus subterfuge?
Didn't download to my new computer properly. Here we go. You said with subterfuge.
Yes. And there we have it. There is no way that leaving Hestia alone has anything but an unsafe risk to the world at large. Sitting on Hestia's shoulders, set into her countenance as if it was built there from the moment that she was conceived, is a consideration of matters that solely revolve around ending a thing. There is death in the air, and its cause is Hestia's small, voluptuous form, mindlessly staring and fixating at the corpse of Alexa, housing Sylvia, the Tremere responsible for the Chicago Bahari War. But everything else is fine.
Right? It's totally fine. So, Miriam will walk over closer to Hestia and get down closer to eye level with her. Like, maybe you need to take a break. Go spend time with people.
See, the thing about that is, last time there were people involved. Yes, and she's pointing over to the other body of the innocent that happened, and then the guy upstairs that, the couch, death. People.
You also have people here who need you.
That actually catches her kind of off guard for a second, and she very much puppy head tilt, like, what? Having not thought of that part. No. See, they have it handled. I am not good right now with being people person because people will realize something's wrong.
The battered and damaged body that Hesha houses, animating the stress that she's felt, animating the stress that she's dealt with and is dealing with. There is no other way to understand all of that damage. There really is no way that Hesha could have suffered all of the wounds that adorn the various portions of her body and still be alive. Just to make sure that we are giving you the numerical value of your total health, how many are free of superficial injuries?
None. I think I'm at superficial for all 4. I think I wrote, let me go check. I put it in the channel for that reason, so I wouldn't forget. Yeah, no, she is all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All 5 of her health are marked with superficial right now.
Half that much in one evening is enough to end a normal human's life. Put them in tragic, graphic, aggravated damage. Hesha is perfectly fine, ambulatory and operational. There's no way that she could even remotely seem to be alive.
I mean, with a roll, I could probably heal like, what, 2 at the most? But does she want to? That's the thing. I think that's something she's focused on right now.
Right, and we'll look at her a little bit. Conversely.
Okay. If I promise I'll stay down here and I won't go upstairs if you go get them because I know that you need to go get them, but I won't go upstairs. I promise I'll stay right here. She's like pointing to the morgue. Right here. Does that work?
Miriam will just stare at her a minute longer. Pinky swear?
Does he double pinky swear? I won't go anywhere.
She'll still be intact too, pointing at the body.
Well, fine intact.
Not any more damaged than it is now.
Oh, yeah, sure, no problem.
Don't wake it up, either.
Oh, wait, huh?
I don't know if you can, but don't wake it up either.
Fine. I won't rouse her either.
Cool. Miriam will hold up both of her pinkies.
And Hestia will, completely honestly and unhesitatingly lock pinkies.
know what's funny? Psychological things that people manifest. Small little things they do unconsciously, like the subconscious mind takes over, and these are things that are done. One of the many things that people do when not quite themselves and needing to protect themselves, even if they're putting on a brave face, they cover their center. They will, cross their arms across their chest, they maybe hold their hands in front of their stomach. They may just, rest both hands together in the middle of them. But oftentimes there's also that crossing of the arms, and to double pinky swear, there is an X that has to be formed for it to be a comfortable thing. And in the doing, in that moment, there are certain realizations that both Miriam and Hestia has. What they've just done in the presence of the dead, outside of themselves, is form a compact between them. They have an agreement. Hestia won't awaken the body. Hestia won't damage it more than it already is. So many loopholes. Without even intending to, Hestia thinks of 3 different hematological sorcerer's actions she might do, which would never harm the body more than it is and destroy everything within it. Immediately, Miriam thinks of the last disco she attended, the last all-you-can-eat free buffet courtesy of the Bahari of the Chicago area. Urzuli, as per usual, had given a rousing, welcoming speech, a convocation to the masses gathered. Mama Walde strode the stage as if she owned it. She strutted and walked and got the crowd, the gathered believers and those who were simply here to feed as they chose. In such an uproar, a feeling crawled through the crowd as if it was the second coming of the Messiah. Everyone was up in arms, the feelings, and Miriam witnessed one of the Bahari just over her shoulder from a distance of about 2.5-3 feet pull all of the blood from one of their human donors and replace it with a kiss, all without harming the body. Before the soul of the person they robbed fled, and before they had the opportunity to do more than to enjoy the invisible kiss, they were being flooded with all of their vitae at once. And there's no way that wasn't psychologically scarring. There was no way that didn't destroy who that person was before that moment, and there was no way that there was any actual damage done to them that was traceable. And as they pinky swear, double pinky swear, meeting eyes from a distance of 1.5 feet, they both know that there are so many loopholes that left available.
Marion will just give her kind of a sad smile and a hug and call if you need. I'll turn around.
Most human conflicts can always be summed up with us and them. Those we take as ours and part of the us, and those that we other and alienate and firmly place in the them column. And as Miriam leaves Hestia alone, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that Hestia believes that course, that body is a them. not on us. As you drive once more over the mad distance between the Haven's shelter, the shelter's Haven, on the north side of Chicago in Rogers Park, it gives Miriam time to think on all of the things that they have experienced in their decently short existence as a kindred. All of the magic that was inherent in being loosely associated with and covered and protected by the umbrella of the Bahari, and all of the hundreds of 100% beyond the semblance of a definition of normalcy that they have experienced in the association with the shelter. There's weird, and then there's what the shelter does on an average Tuesday. And they are worlds apart. Speaking of worlds apart, in the south suburbs, they're in Dalton, the capital city of the Thornton Independent Township, as ruled over and controlled by Decibel Albu, the voivode of the south, Lucio and Silvio and Sophia. You all have been privy to a trap, a spell, a sorcerer's action that you all could not have done much against. You would have watched Silvio, who has existed nearly 4 times Lucio's entirety of his age, all while looking only 4 or 5 years older than him, die. His near immortality would have been as gone as the Watusi. All of the moments shared would have ceased. The only thing left would have been the memories. And as he gathers himself, and Sophia leaves Felix to his grief, as you all sit there in this tabernacle of the twisted, this center of actual hallowed ground, once more consecrated by the sacrifice of an innocent, once more sealed into its permanence by a consecration. What is it that is on your minds?
As I recall, Lucio was trying to make sure that Silvio was okay.
In existence, he is firmly so. He's gathering himself and rebuilding himself internally, because that was a lot. And you are sure that under any other circumstance, those 2 firearms that you can see as you peer into his still buttoned blazer would be free, and Felix would cease to be, or at least be given a hell of a chance to cease to be.
Sophia will look over at the other 2 and see that they are fine, relatively speaking, and she will wonder how the hell we're going to get home.
One of the more important questions of the moment, as far as things such as that are concerned, because each moment you will stay, there is a cycle to healing, and there's a cycle to the grief, and it's individualized for each and every entity, each and every being that exists. The stage that you all had the opportunity to witness was a shifting from rage and anger to grief. But that cycle isn't one that goes only in one direction. It sometimes cycles back and moves forward. Sometimes it skips a few steps and comes back around to itself. There's a lot to deal with when losing someone or something that matters to you on such a fundamental level. And as long as you all are near, as long as you all are inside this building, as long as you are easily viewed or found, there is no doubt in anyone's mind that there's a good chance that some vindictive action may take place. Discretion is called the better part of valor, but is also one of the many factors of needing distance.
Well, perhaps we should wait outside then.
I can take Silvio out. Are you...
Sure thing. Let's get outside.
Alright, well, let's get out of here.
Lucio has no wilting lily. He has no flower nor damsel. But in the warmth and strength of Silvio's grip as he pulls himself up, there's a small consideration as to if it came down to it, if Lucio had not been given the many cursed gifts of death, how monstrous what any engagement he entered with Silvio might be. Silvio's one weakness, his one saving grace, one of the many factors that makes him as useful as he is the fact that he is alive. He is able to dance in the sunlight. But even with that factor, even with him being alive, there is a monstrous strength to him. There is a sheer all-encompassing, without meaning to, he could break things. Without meaning to, if he was not careful with that strength, there's very little that would be left in his wake except for damage, broken and discarded things.
That thought worries Lucio slightly, because he's tried and admittedly failed to not use his cursed powers as much. Failed being a very important word there. And it also bothers his mild inferiority complex a little bit.
Exiting the church, stepping out into the surprisingly warm night air, there's a difference in the environment. There's a immediately present and obvious difference standing outside the church than standing outside of the shelter. There's a sound and a feeling that lets all of the vampiric senses, the urbane understanding, rear its ugly head and cause a small modicum panic. Kindred are things of the city. Kindred are things of the urban environment, and there's very few environments more urban than Chicago. its noise, its sound, the constant motion, even the non-affected by the supernatural world, move at a pace at all hours of the day, night, and all steps in between. That is not easily noticeable. You all can hear a faint bass. You all can hear the all too familiar faint sounds of sirens. You can hear and see the street in activity and motion, but there's a difference of speed. There's a difference at just how careful and wary these people don't really seem to be. And adding insult to injury, you swear that that's Aiden across the street. A white-haired, cleaned up Aiden standing there watching. You know that it can't be, because you know Aiden gave up the ghost to protect Hestia. You know that Aiden wasn't a kindred. You know that Aiden, even with, well, he being a thin blood, still not really a kindred. But even, you know that can't be Aiden. You want to make sure that he was properly disposed of and had as close to a decent burial as you all can manage. But you could swear that that's a shaved, washed, non-slovenly, non-McDonald's eating Aiden, standing there in that crowd of 5 or 6 individuals watching you.
Only Lucio will recognize this, right?
Yep.
He's the only one here that...
Yep.
We might be being watched.
Well, I'm sure we're being watched. Is it a problem?
Well, they look like someone I knew who should be dead. You tell me if that's a problem.
It's almost open question. There are many people I know who should also be dead. Perhaps direct confrontation would be best. I don't know how or when we are leaving.
Are you three going to be fine without me?
Three.
Sophia, and Felix. Didn't Felix leave with us?
No, Felix is still inside, grieving the loss of his self.
I would like to retract my statement and say, will you too be okay without me?
She will step over to Silvio and dust off his shoulder, adjust his collar, and say, I think we'll be all right.
Taking the steps down to the street level and crossing that distance, there is a set to Lucio's shoulders that he wasn't even aware he was capable of. There's an immediate menace as he prepares to defend himself, or he's not sure, but something is going to happen. And what that something might be is anyone's guess, because he is staring into the face that he recognizes that acts as if it doesn't quite recognize him in the same way. It's not like they just released a massive amount of spiritual energy into the world and consecrated a place that had been deconsecrated by their actions. It's not like they sacrificed an innocent person and brought other things back from the other side of the shroud. None of that is possibly viable. Of no concern whatsoever.
Once he's close enough to this person, he simply asks, "Can I help you?"
Maybe. I think you might. You're from Chicago, ain't you?
I may very well be.
You don't know, or you don't remember, or you're not sure. There's a lot of people that need to find themselves.
To whom do I have the pleasure of speaking with?
Now that's funny. That is humorous. That's laughable. That is. Damn. That's mighty caring of you, don't you think? You're gonna stride all the way over here and demand who I am, as if I'm supposed to know you, and bow to your authority. I just thought you might have looked familiar. I was wrong, clearly. There's no one that I would know, and no one that would know me would do such a thing.
I didn't demand, I simply asked.
Oh, that's not a demand on your part. You seem to have an air about you. You seem troubled. Maybe a little lost. Are you lost?
I don't think I am.
That is not definitive one way or the other. So let me help you out. This is Dalton. Are you from Dalton? Are you from Chicago? Maybe you're from Indiana. Does that sound familiar? Who's our president? What day of the week is it? How many fingers am I holding up?
I get the distinct impression that you don't like me for some reason.
If you're who I think you are, if you are part of, associated with, or simply in the same book club as who I might think you might possibly continually could be, I have every reason to dislike you. Doesn't mean that I do. I just have every reason to. To make things easy on us, let me introduce myself officially and show you how it goes. This is the way that we begin with niceties. Hi, good evening. I'm Julian Rademacher, and you are?
Lucio.
Oh, just Lucio. A mononymic like Madonna and Cher and Beyonce. Of course, Beyonce
Lucio
technically has two names, but... So, you are part of and party to who I was hoping you wouldn't be. You see, you fuckers killed a lot of friends of mine. But bygones being bygones, and what I am aware of may mean we can forgive each other and let everything that was no longer apply. This is my good friend Amandus. This is his girlfriend Electra, and this is their throuple, Gerasimos. We represent a particular faction that you all have hunted down with Alexa. We represent part of a faction that you all have unleashed ungodly hell on us because of our associations with Sylvia. However, we have it on good authority. You all have brought Sylvia back and banished Alexa to the maelstrom. Is this true?
Let me put it this way. It may be true. I am not the expert on the subject.
Excellent. So that means that you still have that witch Hestia in your circle of associates. Is she here, or is she using a sending portal to apparate her abilities here through you? Did she possess you? Did she share her senses with you? How did she bring Sylvia back?
I don't know, and she is not here.
Oh, that is troublesome. Is Sylvia here?
I believe they left about an hour ago?
That is unfortunate. But I won't leap to assumptions. Here's what we're gonna do. We're not going to fuck you up. We're not going to kill you. We're not going to have our snipers that it took 40 minutes to put into position to fire on you. However, because there is a lot of water under the bridge that we share, you killed a lot of my friends, associate, followers. You caused us to lose what little domain we had in the city. But instead of acting on that, because you have brought back a dear friend of ours, a teacher, a leader, a philosopher, a friend of our cause and our hearts, we will patiently, calmly, and he reaches into his pocket. He pulls out a phone. It's a surprisingly well kept phone. Though you have not seen a Motorola Razr since you were in high school at least. But it's well kept, it's well preserved. There's no scratches, dings, dents, cracks, or breaks in it. And he hands it to you. It's a nice baby blue Motorola Razr. It even has the aftermarket super battery attached. And as he hands you the phone, Electra steps forward and hands you the charging cord for it, which is that huge block with the attenuated little surge protector built into it, and that little prong that always broke off after charging it too often. Yet everything's well serviced and well in line. She hands it to you. You will call us. We will sit down as adults and work through this so that we can all continue with our existences as friends. Right? That's what we want. We want each other to be friends, right?
That sounds acceptable.
Good. I can't wait to hear from you. God, I spent too much time setting this up. I've got chills. I was expecting a shootout. I was expecting you all to do what you did before, become these monsters. I still have the recording of Shaheen when he was driving away saying how monstrous you all were. I really was expecting something else. Luckily, with all of the strife of the last few months, we've done some growing, we've done some soul searching, and I'm really hoping that tomorrow will be better than yesterday, because today is already better than tomorrow.
That's all any of us can hope for.
Yes, hope. That horrible bitch that cuts out your heart and yet somehow makes it all better with kisses here and there. Faint, phantasmal ghost kisses to make you think that it won't screw you over later. But it always does. It always does. Anyway, I wish you a good night. Can't wait to hear from you, Lucio, Hound of Prince Jackson. We will be in touch. And he's the only one that actually turns around to walk away. The others back away, keeping their eyes on you and the building across the way. And as he backs away, or as they back away and he leaves, you are left with the baby blue Motorola and a charging cord. And Sophia, you've seen many things. Normally, that sort of congregation of people being together at one place at one time usually means that someone's going to either have to swallow teeth or worse. Yeah, Lucio walks back holding a phone of some sort and a cord.
What is this? Is Game Boy?
No, that's a significantly older device.
Oh, quaint. It looks like you made some new friends. They even give you a gift, eh?
Yes, a gift. And Lucio's going to look over at the building that the others were looking at to see if he can see those snipers that were mentioned.
That's the funny thing. Just an apartment building. Just an apartment building with enough windows that your eyes kind of go fuzzy trying to pinpoint all of the windows, and that glimmer of light from one, which may be a TV or a laptop or a tablet, or you're not sure. It's the electric light from small or smaller devices, and so many of them.
Off an optic.
Exactly. There are easily 85, 86 windows. Easily, if you were just looking at the top floors, about 36, maybe 40 windows with a relatively decent enough line of sight. And this is, Dalton. It is a relative high-rise at 6 stories. But 6 stories with such a clear view is more than enough space, more than enough distance to make every magnified optic almost perfect. Hell, it's less than a quarter of a mile. At that distance, even someone who wore bifocus could get a clear shot with the right optic and with the right training. Someone with no training stands more than a fair chance to at least get a body shot.
So did your friends want to drive us home, or did someone else have the donkey cart tonight?
I think we might need to call an Uber.
Does Uber come here?
Storyteller, do they?
That is a good question. Officially? Yes. Unofficially? Well, to be very honest, there's very little chance or very, very little opportunity to make any significant money being a livery service in a place where most people have cars.
Seems like the sort of neighborhood where you pay for the pizza first and then hope it shows up.
It is so very much that. It is such a place that as you see your car, which you all stole from your neighbor, arrive, it takes several minutes for you to ascertain that is in fact Miriam behind the wheel and not someone who just carjacked them as they tried to drive away. And it is in fact Miriam. It is in fact the car.
Oh look, how convenient. Once again, things go our way. Shall we?
I will open the door and step out and let Silvio have his customary space behind the wheel.
Are you sure you're up to driving, Silvio?
Yeah, sure thing. I got this. This is relaxing, meditative at this point.
You've had a romantic evening. If you would wish someone else to drive, I'm sure that could be arranged.
Yeah, no, I've seen the way that you all treat vehicles. I'd like us all to get there.
Very well. And into the car I go.
Maeve went to take the swiftest route.
Lucio made new friends. They gave him the first ever cell phones.
The swiftest route, not even necessarily the best thing. The expressway's never good for, your kind.
I'm worried about Hestia.
About if we take the most expedient route that you find suitable?
He nods into the rear view. Sure thing. And as you all begin the trek back to the Haven, Mary's been gone roughly 2.5-3 minutes. That's all it takes to get outside of the Haven and get to the car and up the tunnel. She's probably already merging onto Sheridan to hop over to the Dan Ryan to take that down and around. She's always the most A to B driver you've seen, Hestia. Always spit spot. And in that 2.5-3 minutes, I'm looking at all that lovely, manicured, well taken care of blonde hair, and that pale skin powdered and perfumed with all of the finest cosmetics possible to hide and mask the fact that is, in fact, and has been for at least more than a few years, a corpse. You think of the last person you knew that was on that table. The last person you knew that was on that table was Aiden, that annoying McDonald's eating pain in the ass who gave his life to keep yours here. Daytime security guard and trusted Renfield, who of his own volition worked and served you all. Which, in the thinking of Aiden, brings Clyde's face swimming up out of the past. It brings Whisper's gnarled, desiccated form up out of the past. It brings Simone's face and Regis's confused understanding of the now into the present. There's Raoul's face as he once more sells something to someone who doesn't need it and has connections with most of the street kids in the area. There's Julius, now serving as a protector of the Chantry, first and foremost, and the feeling of betrayal you saw when looking upon his face. And then there's Sylvia's face, sitting at the bar, clutching her purse, clearly out of her element.
Once Hestia is absolutely sure that Miriam is gone, doesn't take her long to, despite most people see of her physically, all but leap up onto the dining table, like straddling the body and looking down into its eyes, and gives just like, it's a smile not often seen. I think maybe Lucio's like the only other person that's ever seen her smile this way, and it's not a good smile. It is not a happy to see you. It's a, oh, you're fucked smile. And kind of leaning on their elbows, looking down into the body. I promised that I would not hurt you any further. I know you can hear me. You're lucky. You are so lucky I have a use for you right now. See, I realized how we fucked up before in getting rid of you. I need to learn things from you. I need your knowledge. So I shouldn't send you back into the maelstrom. You can't stay in this body, see, because this body needs to disappear. You don't know we had Alexa. Otherwise, somebody would have probably come looking for her by now. And I don't want them to figure out this whole mix-up that happened with you taking her body over. So, the thing is, you can't keep this body. I'm willing to be nice about this whole situation. And that body over there, that empty one, that nice, once human one, you can have that, I don't care. That's the only way you're gonna get to stay on this side of the veil. Otherwise, I could just chuck this one into the oven, like I do most things, and make it disappear forever. So it's your choice. I'll give you a couple minutes to think about what you want to do before I go turn the incinerator on. And she winks and slides down off the table. Stretches and cracks her neck. And then I'm gonna attempt to heal to superficial.
Excellent. Would you be so kind, let's go ahead and make your rouse rolls.
Nice, look at that. No hungrier. I think it being mean bitch keeps the beast at bay.
There's an offer on the table that you made. There are certain things that carry weight. That speaking them into the ether creates an energy that takes on a life of its own and moves at the will and whim of fate, destiny, whatever word you want to ascribe serendipity and all of its friends. And speaking it and sharing it into the void, speaking into that space between you and the corpse that houses Sylvia. There's a moment of catharsis, a moment of realization, a moment of sheer unbridled honesty. Would you be so kind as to roll 1/3? sorry, wrong pool. You're basically going to roll the results of your humanity plus 2 minus 10 in terms of die, and give that a roll for me.
Okay, so humanity plus 2 minus 10.
Yep.
Then I'd be at -2.
So roll 1 die. In that moment of honesty, because there's no doubt, there is no attempt at manipulating, there's no attempt at lying to yourself or to the universe around you. Hestia is 100% honest. Hestia is being blatantly, directly truthful. She has every intentions of destroying that body in the end of the day, whether Sylvia is in that body or not. Hestia has every intention of bartering that human's child's body, a freshly turned adult, legally cognizant of their actions and being able to be upheld and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law because they are a functioning adult's body. She is willing to trade that last remnant of innocence for the opportunity to grow stronger, more aware, and more understanding of the depths of the shadows in the world around them. And in that moment, the floodgates open. In that moment, just how far she is willing to go hits her. Hits her hard. It feels as if someone struck a planet from the skies above and smacked her with it. And instead of being crushed, instead of being mauled, instead of being destroyed and obliterated, Hestia stands stronger for it. There's a purpose and a reason, and a little monstrousness, a little evil to achieve those greater goals is worth it. Fuck Sylvia. Fuck that human's body. Fuck that destruction and loss of innocence. It is 100% worth everything that she is doing to herself. And that's when the floodgates actually open. Because she realizes that she is the arbiter of all the wrong that she has been privy to. She has consciously chosen these things that have destroyed her, that have put those that she has cared about, and that is with a D, cared about, in harm's way. She's not sure if she actually even cares about them. She's not sure if she even cares about herself in this moment. And facing that reality, facing that truth, causes the tears to well up. They dance on the edge of her vision. And the weight of all that she's done settles. Because it is what she has done, what she's willed into being, what she has dared, threatened, and followed through on. Her damnation, her inability to be near the church, her loss of even the memory of innocence, it has all been her choice.
Okay, so with that, I have a small question. The reason that up until now, religious items have had such a effect on her is because of her belief in that religion, even though she wasn't a part of that religion any further. Would this be enough of a fall from faith that it doesn't matter to her anymore? So therefore anything religious would lose power over her because she doesn't believe anymore.
That's how our scientific mind tells her that it should work. But faith is a funny thing. The declaration of not believing in it and not saying that it's true grants it power and strength just as much as saying that it does. It is a double-edged sword of, this shouldn't work, I am not worthy of faith, which gives it strength and power over her. She knows it makes no sense, and she knows that she should be beyond and stronger than it, but at the end of the day, the bill has come due. And even though she says she doesn't have the money, even though she says she'll wash dishes to pay off the bill, she still finds herself reaching into her pocketbook, removing the cash and paying what she owes universe, paying what she owes. And in the consideration of that, as she is literally contemplating all of those vicissitudes of faith, dealing with the unburdening of her soul, there's nothing like having your party crashed. The coterie arrives.
Because how long did it, was she standing there? Like, was it long enough that Sylvia should have made a choice, or no?
That's funny. Time has its own mind, and a few moments, a few seconds, as she's castigated by her own remorse over the actions taken over the last few weeks and last few months, time is relatively meaningless. Even though she realizes, son of a bitch, there's been too much time past. This bitch has, in walks Miriam, Silvio, Lucio, and Sophia.
Are we interrupting something?
Well, basically all she would have walked in on is her standing like statue still between the two gurneys in the middle of the floor of the morgue. And as she hears them come in, she kind of snaps out of whatever was going on in her head and curses because they're back, and she realizes her chance at what she was going to do is gone. So she glares at the body. We'll continue this later. And then looks at the rest of them. No, obviously. I kept my promise. She's unharmed and unrisen and then starts to head towards stairs to go out.
Miriam will offer her a giant smile.
Well, I'd hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we might have an issue with this.
No issue. No.
Yes. And Lucio pulls out the Motorola. Yes.
So you finally upgraded? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
This was given to me by one of the Duskborn. The same ones that Sylvia was leading. Somehow they know what happened.
Hold it. Before you say anything else, I am going to remind you that you can be heard. And she looks back at the body. Is this a conversation? Yes. She's in torpor. She can be hearing everything around them.
I was under the assumption that we were whispering, my bad.
You never said that she's in the middle of the floor.
I will clarify next time. I guess my tone does not carry over the mic.
Basically, she kind of pulls him to the side so that he can whisper.
Lucio hasn't been in torpor before, has he? I do forget that one fact.
I think he wasn't he? Because, well, I wasn't there for it, but when they went down into that place below the succubus, I think he was knocked into torpor temporarily.
Oh, okay.
He was, yeah. They were fighting the gargoyle, and he got temporarily knocked out.
I do forget some moments. The reason why I'm asking, and the reason why it's relatively present and prescient and of import, has Sophia or Miriam been in torpor?
Maybe. So it probably would have been some sort of punishment from her lovely sire. But hard to say.
I don't imagine Sophia has, but Sophia is also pretty much an expert on the vampiric existence condition.
Okay. Well, the reason why is Hester has been actively in torpor, and Lucio having been in torpor is not quite the same because he didn't get a chance to experience it firsthand. It was all secondhand for him, which is what it is. But it is being cognizantly aware of everything around you and unable to affect the world, alone with just your beast for what seems hundreds, maybe thousands of years for every hour that passes. Because you are able to be titillated by the touch of the wind and the room that you are in. You are able to watch as every mite and mote of dust falls into your eye. You are able to feel the pressure of people leaving and entering into whatever space you are in. And God forbid if you experience that while you are outside, watching the world go by, knowing that there's nothing you can do to stop the sun. All of those things bombarding and affecting you. And you simply stuck with your beast. Not whispering, giving full-fledged stage performances, one-person shows for your entertainment, and no way to shut it out, no way to stop the impulses and the sensory overload that you receive. So every sound, every voice is magnified 100,000 times over and over, and every memory is being played at the exact same time. It is a sensory overload and deprivation all at once. It very much is a punishment and a torture, and as close to heaven and hell that any kindred will ever get. So even as the corpse that houses Sylvia, the corpse of Alexa, is there and unable to act, everything is within their purview. They are in that moment truly infinite, truly immortal, and unable to affect anything at all. That torment is not an easy thing to stomach or an easy thing to live past, to exist past, and yet it is as close to divine as you all have come. So as you all step away and you lower your voices, it doesn't have the same power as walking into a church. It doesn't have the same power as touching a third rail or being shot, even. But there is a power and a presence, being in the presence of a kindred that is in torpor, compounded with the scent of the moldering flesh of your victim. So stepping away, you all were saying?
So once we're away from prying eyes, he will restate, or away from the body rather, whispering this time more quietly. I was handed this phone and charger by a group of Duskborn who claim to be the remnants of Sylvia's followers. They expect me, it seems, to contact them with this phone.
And why would they expect you to do that?
Because I was threatened.
With what? And why?
Sniper fire. And because they, as they put it, want to become friends.
I feel like I'm missing part of the conversation. You're telling me some of why, but I'm not getting exactly why. Anybody that would have anything to do with remnants of Sylvia's people suddenly want to be friends with you, unless there's something I'm missing.
Because they know she's back somehow.
What in the absolute fuck? Is what? How did...
Somehow
So what does that
they
have to
knew,
do with you?
because they knew who I was. And they knew I was part of the coterie that, first off, killed about half their friends, and second, brought Sylvia back.
Well, first off, their friends getting killed was entirely their own fucking fault. I gave them a chance to leave. They decided they didn't want to, so I did what I had to do. Not on us, that's on them. Besides that fact, Sylvia coming back, yeah, that's a thing that happened, but I was in the process of working on that when you guys came in, so...
But how did they know?
Well, if they're
How did they
Sylvia's...
find out so soon? And how did they also know that Alexa is gone?
Okay. I'm just spitballing here, but do you remember what Sylvia is famous for?
No. I know
Well,
she
reason-
was a powerful Tremere. I know that Dusable was very angry because she helped keep a lot of spirits sealed.
Exactly. So the reason that Dusable was so angry about losing Sylvia in the first place is because, like, I know ley lines and specific magic towards one thing. Sylvia knew about spirits, how to block spirits, how to call to spirits, how to anchor spirits, and all of that shit. So by losing her, we lost a lot of knowledge that was hard to get in the first place because of how long it took Sylvia to learn those things in the first place. With that being said, because Sylvia knew all of those things, she taught those idiots the shit she knew. So, if they were any sort of good student, they probably learned quite a bit and have been either speaking to her on the other side and knew she had some sort of plan as to how to break out when she could, or were waiting for some sort of sign of her attempting to break out. And that hole that got ripped in the thing above Dalton, that was a pretty big event. The reason it stopped the power coming to the ley lines here, and the reason we had to fix it in the first fucking place, is because it was a huge event. So anybody with even half a sense of goosebumps or, oh shit, something walked over my grave, and that feeling would have felt what happened. So they already were keeping an eye on that whole situation, probably, and then considered it some sort of, oh shit, this would be the thing we're waiting for, and maybe they were gonna come there and try to get her back themselves, but we just happened to beat them to it somehow.
It checks out. Yeah, she could speak across the shroud. It happens all the time.
Well, shit. Well, what do we do about this?
Does something need to be done about it?
Well, that depends. Do we want a band of very angry,
you want to hear-
magical thin bloods trying to kill us?
Don't you have that already?
Well, see, they left us alone for a while after we beat their ass the last time, and they've been licking their wounds. So now, if we don't cut this off at the pass, they're going to refocus themselves on us and give us more shit that we don't need to be dealing with right now on top of everything else that we have going on. So we either end them all now or make friends until we can end them all later, because I'm tired of dealing with their dumb shit.
Well, you have their Messiah, don't you?
We do, but see, I kind of need to keep her alive.
That is fine. What you do and what they perceive you do not have to be the same things. You have all the leverage in the situation as long as you have the Messiah.
You know, it should scare me that I agree with you, but it doesn't. I think I'm okay with this.
I should be offended that you say such things.
As long as we understand each other.
Alright, what are we doing with her?
Well, first things first, I was trying to get her to go into a much weaker body that we can more easily control. Because letting her keep Alexa's body is not smart. And on top of that, we need to get rid of Alexa's body because I figured out that they're actually not looking for her yet.
Isn't her car still here?
No, remember we left it somewhere. And we took the limo.
Fair enough.
So she could have just gone off to go hunt thin bloods or something, and they got the jump on her, and she never made it back.
I would never. Go ahead.
The thing is, we just need to make sure that they don't figure out that she was here this whole time. So we need to do something with her body. I have some thoughts on that, but I'll come back to that later. What were you going to say?
I would never ever suggest, because this is a Camarilla matter, that perhaps it might be in your best interest to remove the soul from within Alexa and give Alexa to these thin bloods. They have a grudge, yes? Two birds, one stone.
Is there even a soul of Alexa in the body left? I thought all that was in there was...
No, they kept, somehow Sylvia's thing kept Alexa from getting her body back, so Alexa's probably gone for good.
I mean, will it matter? She is in Torpor. The thin bloods cannot bring her out of Torpor. They are thin bloods. They can have their pound of flesh, do their little ritual, parade her around and end her life, and feel all good about themselves, and it's a win for you on both counts. But I would never counsel such a thing, because it is a Camarilla matter.
I like that idea if I hadn't already thought of something else.
Go on.
Well, you know that we have Junior in the box. We needed a kindred to shape change into Vivi. Female body, about the right height, similar look, easier change.
Possibly.
That way we don't necessarily have to kill Ignacio in case that whole situation is actually a trap and we were being set up to hurt and kill him, and then the Don hurt and kill us. So we would keep him alive and get rid of another problem, because technically Alexa caused us a lot of shit. And Lucio, she is one of the last people that knew that whole thing about you know who. And the whole Ahari situation.
So you want to change Alexa's corpse into Vivi?
Two things to contribute here. The first is that I have to insist that we keep Ignacio alive. He still has value, and it would be foolish to just throw him away. The second is, are we even sure that the Voivod, now that the situation in Dalton has changed, is still even willing to help us?
Well, our deal with the Voivod had nothing to do with Felix and Vu's thing, because Felix and Vu's made their... Remember, we sent them to make their own deal. Wait, you guys never even told me what happened when you went there, because I was leaving, and I don't know what the fuck all went down. I mean, obviously you're still alive, so it couldn't have been too bad.
We had the family squabble. It is handled for now.
Okay. I will leave it at that. I'm gonna trust that that's what you're getting at. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, that was my point. We can keep Ignacio alive if we do the whole body swap thing. And then if that doesn't work, if the Voivod says no to that whole situation, then we can still give her to the Thin Bloods.
Just want to make sure I have all my ducks in a row here. This is the Sylvia whose death sparked the Bahari Purge.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Her Thin Bloods, then, were some of the frequent participants in some of the dances, shall we say.
I think so. I remember seeing some of them there.
It is a thing even I know.
Just wanted to make sure I had the right person.
Look, I understand, Miriam. Sylvia has done a lot of wrong. I mean, she tried to kill me multiple times. I mean, we had a friend that was a Thin Blood, and they kind of helped us out, and they were staying here, and their name was Aiden, and she killed Aiden because Aiden got in the way of a nasty spell meant for me, and I feel really bad about that whole situation. But I mean, we couldn't save him, so that was the thing that happened. Hey, hold on. Didn't Aiden say he had a brother? And then his brother was supposedly the leader of the Thin Bloods. So you ran into Aiden's brother.
That would explain the family resemblance.
Oh, ooh, yeah, Yeah, that's probably why he's not happy to see you.
So you have a plan then, yes?
Somewhat. I'm still trying to get Sylvia out of Alexa's body. And before you came back, I was gonna do that. But then I lost track of time. And then I was standing here and you were back. And for a second, like, again, her brain kind of short circuits. And she's just kind of standing there and goes blank for a minute. And then snaps back into herself.
As nice as all of these plans are, I have to ask, is any of it worth it? Sylvia is an extremely dangerous person to be allowed back. She's smarter, more patient, and more skilled with spirits than possibly all of us put together. And we are allowing her potentially free reign in our haven. Is that what I'm understanding?
No, I'm not that stupid, obviously. I'm way smarter than that. She
But
would not
how
get free reign.
would you control her? How would you rein her in and ensure that she is able to, or that she's not able to take control of this haven from us? For all we know, she could already be at work. She's already inside the wards.
I thought the wards were down.
No, when we sealed the hole, things kind of came back online. It's like reconnecting to the Wi-Fi. But the point is, that's why I was trying to get her into the human body that we could more easily control.
Body isn't the issue here, it's the mind.
Yes and no. If she's in a mortal body, she won't have access to her sorcery. I don't think the human form can do such a thing. She's also now a spirit. She is subject to their laws.
Which is why people needed to be at least a sin blood to be able to do blood sorcery. And this body was neither.
Miriam will chuckle a bit and look at the young girl. It's like, and she seems to be missing some fingers. And she'll eyeball Sophia.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And if worse comes to worse, we've already killed that body once. So, easy enough to kill it again. Right? And she does like, pistol fingers.
Besides, won't she have a harder time casting hex without fingers?
My knowledge of blood sorcery is too limited to answer that question. I don't like the idea of keeping her alive no matter what.
But your knowledge of technology is not limited at all. You never bothered to check whether the phone was on. You never bothered to check whether the phone had juice. It is an old school Motorola, and that was one of the second, third, fourth generation of persistent microphones being commonplace. One of the first, third, fourth generations of phones being trackable and traceable. One of the first fully functioning 100% smartphones that broadcasted its information through the ether at all times.
Yes, but Lucio's La Sombra. He breaks the things.
When he speaks, when he interacts, not when any other voices do. And having experienced how bad his abilities fracture, shatter, break, bend, and otherwise piss on the idea of consistent technology and how it should work, granting his phone, which is 3 generations out of date, full operations, granting all of the messages to show up at once or to not show up for weeks. The curse of his blood means that technology has a limitless possibility and a limitless probability of operating at its own will and whim. And after all, what sort of, what's the worst can happen with an additional battery life on a phone in his pocket inside the Haven?
I am making way too many assumptions that I should not today because I thought that when they handed me the charger, the implication was it was dead and I'd have to charge it myself.
The devil's in the details, and no one bothered to check the phone.
Well, I'm checking it now because that thought finally crossed Lucio's mind.
It shouldn't, but the moment that you flip the screen open, instead of it flashing with the information of all of the apps that are there to play, it says, "Hello, Motorola." There were hundreds of contacts that could be saved on that phone. Dozens, 2 or 3 apps that you could play consistently at the same time. And the access to your internet and your social media and the palm of your hands. More computing power than was used to get the first men to the moon. And as Lucio opens the phone and hears "Hello, Motorola," there's but one contact in the entirety of all of that lovely computing power. One number.
Julian's?
Yep.
Is there any indication that this phone is recording?
Recording? No. Broadcasting? Most assuredly. You see that little satellite silhouette there in the corner? And even though you had one of these growing up as a child, it amazes you how small that screen actually is. It amazes you how it strains even your vampiric eyes to stare at all of that bright, colorful electricity coursing through that screen.
Lucio is going to hand the phone to Miriam and ask, can you please switch this to airplane mode for me? I'd do it myself, but me and technology do not get along.
We will take the phone and stare at it for a couple of moments, and eventually figure out where the correct setting is. It's not like I can just talk to it. It's like, hey Siri, turn on airplane mode.
Oh no, that ease of functionality was non-existent. However, what is clearly and easily well known is that it has connected with so many different networks. What is this ether space? That makes no sense. There's no network that you know of in the shelter called ether space. There's no correspondence network inside the shelter. There's no Ethereum inside the shelter. Yet somehow this antiquated relic of a bygone era has managed to connect with all of them.
This probably isn't good, guys.
Which part?
All of it? I don't recognize this network that it's connected to. Anyone? Hold it up for everyone to take a look at.
Ethereum, correspondence, ether space are listed as the top 3 networks that it is connected to simultaneously.
I assume none of that means anything to those of us with really high occult scores.
Oh, it definitely does. It definitely does. It's like for you with an occult of 3 or higher, literally like someone showing you that the Dead Sea Scrolls actually did decode the original scrolls that became the Bible. All of them, not just the ones that were edited and reparsed to form the Bible, but all of them that were the foundation of the Torah and the Kabbalah and so many other apocryphal books, because various people decided to edit out certain portions. But you have proof that those languages actually meant something and what they mean. It is correspondence, the Ethereum, and the ether space. The ether space is supposedly what some knowledgeable Hakata managed to do to bring the world across the shroud into the modern age, into the everyday, and access it. Correspondence is the ability to speak and act across distances, and, well, the Ethereum is supposedly the farthest, deepest reach of the shroud, places where every thought has become a reality unto itself.
I think it might be best to be rid of that nasty thing. Is there a power button? I do not think it will work, but it is worth a try.
I will switch it off.
As you turn the phone off, it says, "Goodbye, Moto." and vibrates.
I think it worked.
And typing intensifies.
Exactly. I hear the click click, so I have to wait before I say anything.
Staring at the little nothing device in your hand. What's Sophia's suggestion for the little nasty thing to be turned off? With the opportunities and options ahead of you all, where does that place you?
This place really needs a clean room.
Wait, don't we have one?
Yes, you do.
Chuck the phone in there.
Who takes the phone?
I suppose I keep it. I will take the battery off of it as we walk. I watch movies, damn it.
Very well. Keep your secrets then.
Right.
That's not very friendly. You're not sharing your information with your newfound friends. So as you all set the phone into the safe space, the last final act of whispers before, well, the Thin Blood made short work of him thanks to their learning and tutelage under the care of Sylvia. Even now, Lucio realizes that whispers is very much being used, or at least was being used, as an anchor point for a holy site to a group of the Thin Bloods that you all never got back in contact with.
That was a dizzy thing. I don't think anybody else cared about that.
Quite possibly. But the fact still remains. No one reached back out. No one got back to rescue or save or extricate Whisper's body from the Thin Bloods. And as the phone is laid to rest inside the clean room, it is the only clean thing inside this shelter at the moment. Without belaboring or beating the horse overly much past its own death, you all sacrifice an innocent person. You all are allowing an unmitigatedly evil entity to inhabit, to steal the body of another immortal. You all have, through your actions and inactions, allowed the power structures of Dalton to change. And somewhere out there in the night is a Hakata mother waiting to mourn the death of her son that you've all made an agreement with to be friendly and to dispose of and to take care of. And with all those options sitting before the coterie, all of those half-spoken promises and fully realized truthful lies sitting out there in the night, the fact that you all have one moldering human body, two kindred bodies, and what you hope to be the rest of forever to make up your minds does not shortchange itself. There are a lot of things that need to be done, a lot of opportunities that need to be realized or tossed away and prepared for the fallout of. But in the moment, in the now, at least that phone is locked up nice and safe inside the clean room. And with the idea of that sitting before us, with the door closing on that nasty little device, I'd like to thank you all for a lovely episode, and I will see you guys next week. Good night, everybody.
Night.
You love to make us paranoid.
What's there to be paranoid
He's
about?
paranoid.
That's the world that
Mary's
we
not
live
paranoid.
What's there to be paranoid about? You guys are perfectly fine. Everything will be silky smooth. You're good.